in the past. Thank you. In the past couple of days, and we get to hear from them. I want you to plug in your guests who have looked at something and they're thinking about it, they're contemplating it. Invite them to our international locker room. We are able to host thousands of people on that. We generally have 2 to 3,000 on. So you have room, invite them. And then if you are in the Atlanta area, or if you're driving distance, or if you could get a quick flight to Atlanta, next Saturday is going to be our Super Saturday here. And I understand we have 2,000 tickets sold. It's going to be amazing. I'm talking mini convention here. You don't want to miss it. You really want to be there. So go and check. They might be sold out, but ask around. I know there are a few people that have tickets that are available. And so you do want to plug into that. So I am, okay, yes, I do see. Hold on one second. Let me give you the power. All right, Dorian Joyner, I see you are there. Let's see. I see you. Can I hear you?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, great, great, great. You would think I know since I do the planet things which one to connect with. Well, folks, I am so honored to be before you tonight. I'm excited. I'm always excited to be before tonight. That our I call a four-star director because we're speaking everything into existence that is going to be manifested this year. The four-star director Joy Dawkins allows me the privilege to come before you and share with the team. I always tell people my dilemma, even when I have speaking engagements outside, is I always think I don't have enough information, and because I take everything very seriously, and so I gather information. And I never forget the first time I had a one of the public speaking in New York, and they told me to put it together. I thought I didn't have enough information. I think we went an hour, maybe 45 minutes, consistent. And so we're not going to do that tonight. Let me tell you. Last week we wanted to, since we had just got back from Eagle Week, I think it was Eagle Weekend. We wanted to make sure to let you know because, especially with convention, we do not want anybody missing anything. Folks, so Joy just told you about this week. Next week, what next week is going to look like, I'm telling you, I just got back from the today looking at the ballroom. For those of you who've never been to it's going to be like convention next week. It's a major function. It's all set. It's going to look glamorous. And I'm telling you, take advantage. Even if you're out of town, I will tell you this, don't use your mortgage money. But what I would tell you to do is find a way. There's always a way to do something. And a lot of times we put limits on ourselves of what we can't do or what we can't get into. And tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. The last two times I spoke, and we were actually going to finish up tonight, I talked to you about, the first thing we talked about is show me the money. You remember we had that the video, and we talked about show me the money, and we went through the comp plan and showed you how to make the money. Then we talked about how do you get the money? How do you actually, okay, so I see the comp plan, but how do I actually walk it out? And we talked about that, how you go gold builder twice. Because if you go gold builder twice, guess what's going to happen? You're going to become a 2020 member. And guess what? 2020 is the gateway to directorship. Out of that 2020, you're going to find 3 to 4 people. It's not going to be everybody. If I ask Tonda Seasway, if I ask Sandy, if I ask Selena, in fact, I'm not sure if she's on. In fact, Selena is the most recent director. If I ask her or you ask her right now, how many people helped you go director? You needed everybody, but there was only about 3 or 4. And guess what happens? But you got to go 2020 wide to find those 3 to 4. It's a science, folks. Everything is a science. And what I'm going to talk to you tonight is probably one of the most important things. I'm going to talk to you about the science of the why. The why is a science. And so I'm going to talk to you tonight about this topic right here. And it's a topic Mr. Bradley always talked to us about. And he says sometimes you got to connect the dots. You remember when you were kids and you had all these dots? You remember that? I used to love those drawings, and you had to go from dot to try to find and try to connect them. And sometimes they didn't have numbers on them, but you had to try to make an image out of it. And guess what? Your why tonight is about connecting the dots. And guess what happens? We have special guests tonight. I'm so honored that, listen to me now, the founder of the company is going to be speaking to us for a few minutes. And I'm so honored that he took time and he's coming on tonight. And so we're going to hear from Mr. Bradley himself. And y'all got to, I saw everybody like, Mr. Bradley coming? Yep, he's coming on. Because guess what? Most of y'all haven't heard this right here. And I'm only going to play a few minutes of it. And some of y'all had access to it and still haven't listened to it. But it's probably, I tell people ask me, what was the one, if you had to go back to any different setting that made you decide, because in the beginning I got in for travel. That's all I got in for. But what was that switch point, that day that was that, if I could have to go back to that one day, I'm going to take you back to a little excerpt. In a few minutes, I'm going to let him do most of the talking on this call. Well, I'm going to bring up Mr. Bradley, and you're going to hear him talk about a little bit about the why, because he talks about it like nobody else. So you might have to turn up your speakers a little bit. I'm not sure if this is coming, if the volume was a little down, but I'm going to start with him, and then I'm going to come back. But I'm going to bring him up here as soon as I get my computer going.
This is locker room style. Everybody good with that? We're on an honor system, right? Lisa, think about your why. Do you only think about your why when you're at a big event? No. You know, I have 4 children, 3 of them in college right now. 2 at Auburn University is $50,000 a year, right? And they let you know that if you don't have that 50, we drop in classes, right? And I would not I've been telling them since they were babies, go to school, right? So while, you know, my son's great graduate this summer with no student loans, right? That's important to me. I'm just saying, because when I was in college, it wasn't like that, Dexter. I didn't even know we had a football team that played on Saturdays. And that may be funny, but it's real. Because on Saturday, guess what I was doing? Right? People would say, Bradley, we're going to see you in the fall. I'd be like, we hope that everybody going to see me in the fall. Right? So for my children, they were able to be, my daughter just finished her first year at Auburn and came home yesterday. 3.5, you know, because she had, her job was to get her grades. She didn't worry about no student loan lines. She don't know what financial aid is. Right? But that was my why. And at least I didn't have that why when I was around other people. Tony couldn't motivate me more than I was already motivated to make sure that my kids could go through school and be students. That was my why. You know, if my mom calls me today, I pay my mother and my mother-in-law a monthly stipend to supplement their retirement. You know, my wife is going on a ladies' trip that they take every year, and one of her aunties couldn't afford to go, and I told her, I got it. And my wife called me yesterday and said, you know, when I told Aunt Lou that you were going to pay for it, she was crying. I'm just saying, you have whys that will make you cry, that'll make you fly. So I don't have those feelings only when I'm around Don Shemley or I'm in Vegas. That feeling is inside of me, and it burns when God wakes me up in the morning. Right? I say, God, you wake me up, I'll get up. Inspiration is what you're going to get today. You heard Lisa, you heard Tony, you saw the directors, you saw Latoya, right? That can inspire you, but motivation is what you're going to do when you leave here. I don't really care if I go and talk to somebody today and they say that you're in a pyramid. That has no impact on me. Because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because I'm going to get these 4 kids through college without no student loans. And I said I didn't want to live like a scrub while they went to school. I told you I just came back from London. I just came back from Cuba, right? I'm not, you know how people say, I can't do it because my kid's in school. Nah, not me. I'm doing it because my kid's in school. So Lisa, I'm not motivated just when I'm around other people. My motivation it's 2 words that I wrote down today that people must have to succeed: ambition and drive. I'm not ambitious because I'm around other people. I'm ambitious because I'm ambitious. Right? I don't have drive when it's a contest. I have drive all year round. Like LaToya Mayberry won a contest that she didn't even know that she was in, and she got double the pay in May because she was already on track doing the things that she's supposed to do for herself anyway, because those were her goals anyway. Right? So Lisa, I don't know what that feels like to just be motivated, because somebody says, that I'm gonna give you something extra outside of your dreams. I don't need it. If you give it to me, it's extra. This Rolex was extra. I was gonna get it anyway.
You answered my question. I was just about to ask.
Okay. I wanted you to hear that. I want you to hear the whole thing. In fact, the whole thing is on the director's personal pages already. I put it out there when I first had it. It'll say Donald Bradley, Candid Sessions. It was an event he was doing in Birmingham. It was the most relaxed I've ever seen him, as far as really just pouring out to people. And you could hear his passion in his voice about his why. His why was about getting and you could hear the passion behind it. In that whole meeting, you could hear the passion about the why. And your why has to be passionate, folks. You heard him. Sometimes you have the why makes you cry, that actually makes you fly. So I want to talk a little bit about your why. And guess what? What's your why? There are different things that may be your why. Cedric always says this: what has you? Who has you? What's hurting you? That's what your why is. It could be a better quality of life. It could be to purchase your dream home. It could be to get out of debt. Everybody has these different whys. And so and guess what? A why may be the thing, why is the thing that drives you. A why is what actually fuels you. That's the gas in your tank that's going to make you move. And so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit. We're going to do a couple of math problems. And I want somebody to help me. And in fact, you don't have to help me because I forgot to put the answers, to hide the answers. But we're going to do some arithmetic. Everything you want to achieve in life, you learned already. You learned it in elementary school. And guess what happened? You learned math problems. What's 1 times 1? It's going to be what? 1. And you're going to see why I'm going to come with this. What's 1 times 5? It's going to be 5. What's 9 times 9? It's going to be 81. Now we're in double digits. But also, if you look at this, what's 9 times 0 is 0. A very wealthy man taught me this formula years ago when I was in, I was 6th grade. 6th grade. And guess what? He again said, what's 9 times 9? A big number times a big number. Guess what? He said it's going to end up in a double-digit number. But he says this, here's the formula. He said needs times faith equals motivation. He said everything can be brought down to mathematics. And write down that formula. Your needs times your faith equals your motivation. In fact, if you look at it, whatever needs you have, if you times it by the faith that you have for that thing, guess what? It's going to equal that motivation. Let's see, I'm going the wrong way. Is it going right? Okay, here we go. Look at this. Let's say your needs are very low and you only have about two, let's say on a radar, a scale of 1 to 10 is 2. But let's say you have a very high faith, you believe very high. Guess what happens? Your motivation becomes what? 10, double digits right there. But watch this. Let's say you have a lot of needs, big needs. You want that house, you want that car, you believe you could, and now your faith is big. And what we mean by big, we're only doing numbers 1 to 10, but your faith on that scale is big. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to most likely achieve everything that you decide you want in the needs category. Because guess what? The faith is the multiplier. And so guess what? The motivation is very high. That makes sense? But what happens is, let's say you have a lot of needs, and this is where some people are. You have a lot of needs. You say, I want this, I have these things here, but you have no faith. Guess what happens to the motivation to really achieve them? Guess what? It's zero. Have you ever heard Mr. Bradley said a lot of people are comfortable in uncomfortable positions? What he's really talking about is this formula here. It's a mathematical formula. Needs times faith equals motivation, and it doesn't matter what way you plug the numbers in. Now, there are 4 things here: the needs, the faith, the motivation, and the action. Because motivation always leads to an action. So let's look at some of these things here and let's break them out. Let's talk about needs. What happens is a lot of times people confuse this thing right here, and this is where we go wrong. We take what's called a need, and instead of it being a need, guess what it really is? It's a want. What's the difference between a need and a want? A need is something you got to have. In fact, in psychology, they used to say a need was food, clothing, shelter. You remember when you were taught that? The basics of life. Along the way, as we progressed as human beings, it became medical care, things like that. Guess what? That was a need. Guess what? In my family, and it's funny, when me and Angela got married, we came from 2 different families, and most families come that way. They come differently. And so what happens is a lot of times as a couple, you have to line up to figure out what's the needs and the wants. Now, here's the big thing. In my family, my mother always had extra in the house. In fact, if you go to my mother's house and you ask for a toothbrush, guess what? My mother got probably 500 toothbrushes down under the steps there in the pantry. You ask for soap, guess what she always had? Soap. Guess what? She always had extra. She always brought extra. Now, my wife, and it's not a negative, it's different. That was a need in my house. So my needs was like, we always had to have extra. Now, and my wife, that's a want. My wife runs like a store. The store is called, so a lot of stores run on what's called just-in-time inventory. She doesn't mind getting down to the last and with everything. And guess what happened? That's a want for her. You follow me? And so we had to line up. I was like, look, I need to have this. I have to feel comfortable. If I get down to my last, you remember Mr. Bradley said, so he used to say something before, and he made a statement. He said, 10,000 is the new zero. He told us 10,000 is the new zero. So what does that mean? When your bank account gets down, set your mindset to when your bank account gets down to $10,000, you consider yourself broke. That's a need. You follow me? And so you have to start to distinguish what is a need and what is a want. A need is something that you have to have that there are consequences if it doesn't take place. I need to get that A to graduate for school. I need to pass that class. A lot of times a need will bring on stress. A want is, If it happens, it happens. If it makes it this time, it makes it this time. So what you have to first do is even get into the action of the formula. If you just have a want, you're not even in the formula. So the formula starts with a need. What is your why? What are those things that's going to drive you? Let's look at this model, right? This example right here of a gentleman. And this is the power of a strong why. This is Roger, 589 pounds. And guess what? Roger's 39 years old, been battling obesity his whole life, hasn't weighed 400 pounds in 19 years. Tried every diet, exercise regimen. Regardless, he's never lost more than 40 to 50 pounds. Depressed, guess what happened? You just accepted the fact it's not possible. You know somebody like that? Not possible. He developed the belief that maybe it's not possible. It's my body type. It's my metabolism. Maybe it's the weight. But let's look at something that happens, because now Roger said, I want to lose weight, but guess what? He started to make these, I call them excuses, but guess what? He started to put these other things in place. Well, maybe it's not for me today. A lot of times, when I go to church, I tell people I go to church all the time, but I hear people all the time, what God has for me is for me, and what he doesn't, if it's not, it's not. And so I always tell them, what God has for you, if it's for you, if you go get it, it's for you. If it's not, it's going to somebody else. But what happens is, let's look at Roger in this scenario right here. So now Roger goes out to dinner, and his 12-year-old daughter, she's his whole little world. And guess what? She collapses. She passes out. They have to get the police, have to get the ambulance. She goes to the hospital and finds out in order for her to live, she needs a kidney transplant. So guess what? Roger says, guess what? Every father is going to say what? I want to be the donor. Because guess what? I'm the best candidate right now because I'm her father. But guess what? Now the doctor finds out about Roger's weight, and guess what the doctor says? I ain't doing that surgery. First of all, it'll be too dangerous, and both of y'all will die. So now Roger's holding back tears. And he says, I got to be my daughter's donor. She can't go wait for a kidney. Every father knows when his kids are crying. Every mother knows the heartache of when her kids are crying. And all of a sudden, the doctor looks at Roger and says, hey, Roger, in order for me to do this procedure, I can do it, but you got to lose 250 pounds. What do y'all think Roger would do? Put it in the chat. This is your daughter. And guess what happened? Your daughter is on the line. Put it in the chat. What's going to happen? Is Roger going to lose the weight? Is he going to... And guess what happened? Y'all say lose the weight. Anybody not? Okay. But guess what happened? The key is, if you understand why he lost the weight, guess what happened? You'll understand success right there. He turned a want into a need. It's the same story that you hear all the time. You wouldn't run into a burning building. Because guess what? I would want to run into a burning building, but what if my child was in the burning building? All of a sudden, the want becomes a need. It becomes a burning desire. Your wants have to become needs. And so you have to start talking about these needs in your life, and they have to become, I have to be a director. When I was there with Mr. Bradley at that time, guess what happened? I was handling the sound and everything, but at that moment in time for my family, with the way I heard him talk about his family, I all of a sudden, a burning need. I didn't just want to be the director. I had to be a director. I had to free my family. I had to. Guess what happened? He had just announced the Planet Pledge. I have to become a director. I have to make that money. I have to have something, a backup. And I said, once I get it, I'm never going to lose it. And guess what? You start to turn those wants into needs. Make sense there? And so a lot of times this statement says it's never the how, it's always the why that holds people back from your dreams and desires. Because here's the thing, folks, all of you know how to do something. All of you know how to build this business. Some of you do the plan better than I can do the plan better than Joy can do the plan better than all the directors can do the plan. You know what to do with the three-way call. You know how to how to set your calendar up. You know all the things to do, and and we become information junkies. And guess what? But we don't take the action. But guess what happens? If the why is big enough, you'll figure out how. And so let's talk about that. Again, you have to convert the wants into needs. That's the science of the why, the first part of the science there. And guess what? A lot of times, Sandy said this a couple weeks ago when she was talking about Travel Talk. She said, you have to assign a financial goal. Because guess what most people understand is finances. Everything on this screen right here, it doesn't matter what it is, taking care of your family, taking care of your parents, allowing you to, whatever it is, guess what? It's a financial goal tied to it. And guess what happened? There's a dollar amount because now it's measurable. Everything becomes measurable in that need. So you want to put a dollar amount, it is measurable. When the doctor comes, and guess what? All of a sudden, your mom is in the hospital. Guess what they want? They don't want to hear nothing else but, I want some money. When my mom was in the hospital, guess what? When she would go to the hospital and call me, guess what happened? When I go to the airline, guess what? The first thing, they didn't want to hear, okay, you just got to go to New York today. Guess what they wanted? $500 for that day. Everything could be kind to a financial goal. So you start putting financial goals on there, guess what? Now you can start to measure. It gives you a numerical measurement. Now, again, convert those wants into needs. The second thing you have to do, you have to have faith. And faith is just belief. What do you have to believe in? You have a couple things you have to believe in. First, you have to believe in the country and the economic system that we're in. Think about it. We're here in America. If you don't believe in the economic system, guess what? Well, you're in trouble because this is the economic system that's going to allow you to thrive. What's the second thing you have to believe in? You have to believe in the travel industry. And guess what? I have a video on it, but I'm not going to play that video right now, but it's called How Large is the Travel Industry? And guess what? That industry, that video, I'm going to actually put on I'll put it in each of the directors' team pages, but it's a glaring example of how large the travel industry is, and they use these marbles and show you how big the industry is. But guess what? Last year, some people's and some of us, guess what? We doubted the travel industry. Oh, travel's going to go away. Folks, if travel goes away, the world goes away. Every industry is built on the world. What else do you have to have faith in? You have to have faith in both companies. You have to understand that both companies, that when you put your foot forward, that guess what? They're going to do what they say they're going to do. The reason why Joy Dawkins, she's a founding director. Folks, guess what? They walked away from income that they were making in a previous project to come to this project. They had belief before there was any evidence. Today, it's not that hard to believe in our companies. Think about it, folks. We got two separate companies, 68,000 agents, both companies debt-free. It's not hard to believe in our companies today, but you got to have some belief. Think about it. IntelliTravel, and on my team board, I don't even have IntelliQuest out there no more because it's sold out. It's the only travel agency that, guess what, has ever rented a whole ship for a convention. How hard is it to believe in IntelliTravel? And then Planet Marketing? Folks, 100. By the time they did the phone call that night to announce that we paid out $100 million in commissions, It was already at $101 million that night. It's not hard to believe in the companies. So the question is, there's only one more factor that you have to have belief in. And what is the belief in? It's belief in self. That's where sometimes things go a little wrong. And you remember the formula works out the same way no matter which category. Remember, if you take what your belief is, guess what? If your belief is 0, it doesn't matter. Guess what happened? It doesn't matter if you put a 0 in there. So if I have I can have a high belief in IntelliTravel, which is a 9, let's say a 9 or a 10. I can have a high belief that, hey, the country will stay standard and our economic system will stay standard. So I can have a 10 there. But if I have 0 belief in me, guess what? That means your faith is 0. And so what we have to do is increase our belief. How do you increase your belief in self? Let's talk about that. Guess what happens? We have events, folks. The reason why it was strategically set up so that you can plug into different things. And guess what? All those things that you get to plug into is to, guess what? Build your faith and belief in yourself. Not in Mr. Bradley, not in IntelliTravel, it's to believe in yourself. That's what the power hour is. That's not what the IMV calls are set up for in the morning. They're not just set up to set up. They're set up so that you could actually get some belief that you could start your day before all the negatives hits you. Guess what? That's what all the events are. Guess what Wall Street Blue is about? So that you can believe, get some more belief, not only in, guess what? You're going to see people next week that look just like you, and they're going to walk across that stage. And guess what? They're going to be jackets and rings and all kinds of things given out. And guess what? You're going to say, I could do that. And then when you go to convention, your mind is going to really be blown. Because guess what? You're going to see somebody there, and you're going to be like, now I know. I got, you're not trying to size them down, but you're like, I know I could compete with this person right here. And I know I can accomplish this. And that's what all these events are set up for you to do. And that's what the genius of Planet Marketing is. Also, we have these books right here. These books are designed to help you, but those are how books. What I want you to start doing, action item, is put some belief builders. These are the belief builders. So you can start to hear some stories. You hear Mr. Bradley talking about Think and Grow Rich. Folks, do you know next to the Bible, no other book has been sold more than Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? In fact, Mr. Bradley's mentor was also one of my mentors. When he used to come, his name is Joe Dudley, of Dudley Hair Care. He mentored Mr. Bradley. I didn't know, in fact, we found out at the last convention, Mr. Bradley was under Joe Dudley. And guess what? When Joe Dudley would come in town, I'll never forget one time I picked him up at the airport when I was in college. And guess what? I said, Mr. Dudley, what do you read all the time? Guess what he said? He pulled out his back pocket in his suit. He pulled out a copy of Think and Grow Rich. He said, this is my Bible. He said, I read this book 7 times a year. A lot of times we just want to say we read the book. And guess what happens, folks? He said, I studied this book. Because guess what? There's going to be stories. There's going to be things in there that's going to build your faith. Think the magic of thinking big. He was done by Georgia State University professor Steve Harvey talks about this book. In fact, these are classic books right here. And so this is going to help you build your belief. And here's the thing. One of the last things I want to show you, I'm going to get my pen out. I'm going to hit this, and I'm going to bring it back up on the screen real quick. And we're almost done here, folks. Let me bring my screen up for you to see. And so I tell people I like studying psychology. I like reading things. I tell people I just love, when I was in school, I used to love studying how the brain works. And folks, before I got in computers years ago, I got in computers because the brain, I found out that the computers were designed just like the brain. Everything about a computer was designed after our brain. And a computer has two things. You could do input and you could do output. That means you could put things in, and then guess what happens? Things go out. So the information, so think about a computer, the only thing a computer reports is whatever you put in it. Guess what? Whatever you put in it, that's what comes out. A lot of times people you say, well, the computer's doing its own thing. No, it was a user error. Whatever you put in, guess what? Comes out. And guess what? There's only a couple ways you can do inputs. Think about on a computer, you can use a mouse. You can use a keyboard. See, these are input items. But guess what, folks? I have a friend here called Vern. And this is my friend Vern right here. And this is Vern. Vern's the average person. Vern is a nice guy, everything, but Vern wants to succeed. How does Vern succeed? Does he succeed with his hands? Does he succeed with his feet? What does he succeed with, folks? All success is right up here. 3.8 pounds for a male, 2.8 pounds for a female. Guess what? Just because our head is bigger don't mean we're smarter. It just means we have 3 pounds for a man, 2.8 for a female. And guess what? This determines, this is your input right here. Everything that you do, that you put in here, guess what? Reflects on the outward. That's why we work in Planet Marketing, to make sure you have all the information you need. That's why we have the calls. That's why we have all those things set up. It's to help you with the input. So now when you start reading, guess what happens? And guess what I tell people? People always ask me, well, I got the audio book. Audio books are great, folks. They're great for when you're walking. They're great for, but guess what? You use a different part of your brain when you actually read. See, you can't be in the car. I could drive from here to Jersey, listen to 5 audiobooks, and not remember, because guess what I'm doing? I got all kinds of other things going on. But guess what happens when you read? When you read, you're focused. It's a different part of your brain you're accessing. So what you're doing is when you increase the input and you start taking in these things here, guess what happens to your output? The belief factor grows up. And what happens is, think about it, folks, you only have 2 things that have come in your life. That's negative and positive. And psychologists have already said, guess what happens to the negative in your life? And you got some negative in your life, guess what happened? You fell when you started walking. Guess what happened? You might have failed a class when you were in school. Guess what happened? All these negative things, somebody might have beat you up. All these different things that happen in your life that you register as negative, and guess what you cannot do? You cannot do nothing about the negative in your life. You can't do nothing about it. It's there forever. Once you see something, guess what? That's the input. It's there for life. But guess what happens? The mind is the only place that you actually get to change something, change a dynamic. What you can do, though, is with the positive side, guess what you can start doing? You can start building layers on the positive. And guess what? Eventually, your positive can outweigh your negative. You can't ever get rid of negative, but you can outweigh it by putting in more positive. Guess what happens? As you start to read, as you start to listen to the IMV, as you start to attend the function, as you start to listen to Joy, as you start to listen to your success coach, as you start interacting and getting all these inputs, you start, guess what you start doing? building the positive up. And guess what the positive does? Builds your belief. And that's all you're trying to do, folks, is build your belief. Get your faith up, because now we need the faith. We got the needs. We took our wants, we converted it to needs. Now we take some of the negative and we convert to positive. What else is another way you can increase the positive? Your mind is the only place that doesn't understand fantasy and reality. It doesn't understand the difference between fantasy and reality. What I mean, how many people have ever had a nightmare? You ever had a nightmare and you woke up sweating? You woke up fearful? You went to, anybody else? I never forget the first time I saw Jaws. I was a little kid. I begged my mom, Mom, I want to go see Jaws. I want to go see the shark. I want to go see the, and I'll never forget the first time anybody watched Jaws and that head popped out the boat. And I'll never forget, I jumped and I got so scared, Carnella. And I told Mom, hey, I said, we can leave right now. And my mom's like, no, we're sitting right here and watching the whole movie. And guess what? I was scared that night. And every time I got in the water, guess what happened? I got fearful. Guess what that did? My mind, it registered in my mind. That fantasy became reality in my mind. And so what you can start doing, folks, your body starts reacting a little different. It doesn't when it doesn't understand. So you can start to trick your mind. The other part Vern can use here, besides putting input in his brain, is guess what? You have an input in your mouth. And you can start how you speak. And what's more important is not what somebody else says to you, it's what you say to yourself. When you start using words, can't, try, all these different words, guess what your mind is doing? Yeah, she can't do it. Yeah, she's trying. That means she ain't going to do it. All these words that you start building in your mind, guess what? They're negative. And guess what you start doing? You start doing positive thought, positive talk. When me and Joy talking to her, she said, I greet her. Hey, 4-star. She said, hey, 2-star. And guess what? I'm always talking to myself about 2-star. Guess what? I'm going to convention as a 2-star. And guess what happened? Guess what my mind knows already? Guess what? Going as a 2-star. It takes care of the doubt that's coming in my mind. Every time every time I'm speaking, and guess what happened? I'm speaking 2-star thought. I'm doing 2-star activities. I'm doing 2-star. Everything is to focus on 2-star. So you start to change the input between everything you're seeing. You heard Mr. Bradley. What Natalie said, cut off the TV. Sometimes I tell people, when do I watch TV? I watch TV I go to bed about 3 o'clock. I might watch TV till 11 o'clock. I don't finish until 10 o'clock, so I might only get 1 hour instead of 5 hours in. But a lot of times we're getting negative stuff in. Start changing your programming. And so now you can start to build your faith, folks. As I finish here, again, you have things that you can take the input in. And again, needs times faith equals motivation. And guess what that motivation leads you to? It leads you to action. And here's the thing. I know I met this gentleman when I was young. I'll never forget him. He used to always say this: when the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. It doesn't matter where you're at right now. If some of you decided right now, I want to go to convention as a director. We have a brand new director. We might hear from him this Saturday. Guess what happened? He got into business, and 2 months later, he was director. That's what's happened because he made a decision. And guess what happened? He had things in his past he was able to pull from. And you'll hear that story. But when the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. And again, you can plug into the different activities. And when the dream is big enough, guess what happens? You'll be on the Planet Live events. You'll make that list. You'll make them phone calls. Guess what happens? You'll be scared, but you'll make them. You'll do it.
Not know, but I come from humble beginnings, raised in a single parent household.
I'm gonna skip that video, and I'm gonna skip that video, and because my time is up. But I'm gonna put those videos out there. I'm gonna tell you what one is. One is Cedric White talking at convention, and he talks about those 13 evictions every month, and he talks about how he actually was living a nightmare, but guess what? Chasing a dream. You hear Mr. Bradley talk to him about how did you live this nightmare and go after this dream? And so I'm going to put that video out there for you. And the second video is Rocky. Anybody ever seen the movie Rocky? And he did it. I tell people that video was the 14th round. This is Rocky was a down and out guy. He was an average guy, and they just set up this fight to give an average guy the opportunity. His goal was not to win the fight. He didn't want to win the fight. He just wanted to say, I went the distance with the champ. And he was getting beat down. I'm talking about a 14th round and getting knocked on the ground. And folks, I get motivated about that 14th round because he couldn't even put his arms up to stop the Apollo Creed from beating him. And guess what? He got knocked down and they thought he was out. And when he stood up again and said, give me what he got, because he wanted, guess what, to go the distance. And guess what? He took Apollo Creed's soul at that moment. And guess what happens? Some of you, when you go director and you're getting knocked down, Kat's in a fight right now to go director. And guess what happened? When every time she stands up, guess what happens to the things the doubt that's keeping her? She's standing up against that, saying, give me the best that you got. Guess what Selena had to do? Selena said, I have to go the distance. Give me the best that you got. And so what I want you all to do is go the distance. I want you to connect the dots. Tonight wasn't about giving you all the information. It was giving you enough to understand that needs times faith equal motivation. And if you do those things, understand turning your wants into a need, find a way, and then take that faith and start building it up. You can control it. It's a science, folks. It's a science. And if you understand that's what gives you the motivation to take action, guess what? You'll win. So thank you for taking time to listen tonight. I'll put some of the videos that we had in here on there. Again, I always say, I think I don't have enough information, but then I go over. And so I will put that out there for you. Go the distance, folks. Don't stop right now. Some of you can be right now a goal builder and goal director for real. So make it set a plan up. Get with your success coach. Get with Joy. Get with Tom DeCesare. Get with Selena. Get with Sandy. And guess what? Chase that goal and go the distance and connect those dots. Thank you, Joy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Awesome. Awesome. All righty. We are at the time that we get the opportunity to welcome our new team members and to announce any promotions that have happened in this past week. And I'm excited. So goal builders, please go ahead, unmute yourself. And I want to hear who joined the team this week as well as promotion.
So I'll go first. I'd like to welcome Cynthia Rump out of the Atlanta market. I personally directed her, introduced her to the business.
All right, welcome, Cynthia. Awesome.
Good evening, Director Dawkins. This is Renee Crawford. I am excited to welcome to the team Miss Vanessa Caden Miller from Kingston, Jamaica, and she's personally sponsored by Desiree Brown Quilty, and one other person straight out of Kingston, Jamaica, Gayan Knight, and she is personally sponsored by Vanessa Caden Miller. So welcome.
Very good. Welcome. Who else?
Good evening, Director Dawkins. This is Osea Gums. I would like to welcome Eleanor Francis from the VI Market, and she's personally sponsored by Brent and myself.
Welcome, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. This is Director Sandy Myricks. It's my absolute pleasure to step in for Goal Builder Kat Hines in welcoming Rosemary Price from Cleveland, Ohio, personally sponsored by Bonita Jenkins, and also Welcome, welcome Henrietta Curse, also from Cleveland, Ohio, also personally sponsored by Bonita Jenkins. Thank you so much and keep it going, Bonita.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great.
Good
Who
evening.
else?
Good evening, team. This is Michelle Simpson out of Williamsburg, Virginia. I am so excited. Mr. Joyner, thank you for the word tonight. We appreciate that. If I had an offering plate, I'd send it your way. But nevertheless, I am here to welcome and congratulate Miss Letitia Dickerson, a firehouse there in that Atlanta, Georgia area. She is already ready to see you all next Saturday at the Super Saturday. And she was personally sponsored by Sandy Gibson. And also we have a rank alert. Congratulations to Chanel Felder Jackson. Chanel Felder, who has now become a bronze builder. So congratulations, Chanel, and welcome to the team, Letitia.
Congratulations. Wonderful, wonderful.
This is Director Roan on behalf of Goal Builder Jennifer Overby. I'd like to welcome her personally sponsored new partner, Mary Markham out of the Florida market.
All right, Florida, welcome. Great. All right, who else? Who else? Promotions and new people.
Greens Director Joy, this is McCain from San Diego. I'd like to introduce to the team Yvonne Springer, and she was sponsored by Rita Wiggs, and Yvonne is from Tempe, Arizona.
All right, welcome, welcome. Okay.
I just wanted to add one other thing. Wanted to welcome Shakira Barrett out of Maryland Market, personally sponsored by Chanel Felder.
Fantastic. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. All right, sounds good, sounds good. All right, well, I actually did the announcements first, but just really quickly, this coming week, we have the International Locker Room. That is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to plug into that. That's going to be 1 hour. It's going to be powerful. We're going to have over 2,000 people on. You want to be there. And then, of course, the Super Saturday that we have scheduled for next week. I'm looking forward to seeing you live there. Yay! It's going to be amazing as well. All of these events really help what Mr. Joyner was talking about, that mindset, your why, and building up that positivity in you. So plug into all of that. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Let me open up to the other directors to see if I am missing any other announcements. Convention. I think we still have a few more tickets left. So if you are new to the team, please, go in your back office, get your tickets for convention. If you have new people, make sure you share with them. And so they have the opportunity, because that event is going to be sold out. And then also this Saturday, I just reminded myself, Mr. Shedrick White always has an amazing leadership Zoom at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to plug into that as well. All right, now I will ask any announcements, questions, clarifications as we're wrapping up this evening.
Director Dawkins,
Yeah.
I want to, we're in that place where we're going back to the famous, who do you know? So who do you know in the Virgin Islands? I will be there July 6th through the 12th with that amazing team there growing. So if you know anyone, make sure you connect with me and the leaders there so that we continue to grow our Planet family.
Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Y'all take advantage of that. That is going to be huge. And Letitia, did you? Yes, I thought I saw you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. Happy to be here. I tried to sign up for the for that Super Saturday. And it's not even, when I was talking with my coach, it was on her page, but when I later got on my page, I don't see it.
Okay, okay. Well, first of all,
I
we
think
need
it's
to
probably
check.
might be sold out.
It might be. So definitely, and I'm not sure right now. I have not checked. So get back with your success coach and we'll make sure. Where do you live, Letitia? Where are you?
In Conyers, Georgia.
Okay,
Been
all right.
perfect.
We'll make sure you're taken care of. Make sure, yeah.
They still have it listed out there. They still have it listed out there, Director Dawkins.
Okay,
They still have it
okay,
listed there.
okay. Well, we'll get somebody to
They
help
don't
you
have the,
purchase that.
they don't, yeah, they don't have the flyer. They have just the arrow pointing to it.
Oh,
Okay,
so it's not listed on the calendar.
no,
Okay.
No,
we'll
just
get
scroll
some.
down by the black card. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome, you're welcome. Anyone else? All right, well, wonderful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your holiday. Be safe, keep working. We want to, let's see, I think the 4th, or is it the 5th? The cutoff, Dorian, help me with that. The cutoff for the Shedrick White's contest is the 4th. Okay, all right. So if you are running in that contest, you have until the 4th midnight to make that happen. And I want to give kudos because we have someone who is the front runner. Mr. John Riley is a front runner, so we are definitely cheering him on to reach that 15 and take all the prize. So congratulations on that. Just a nod to him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all I have. I want to thank you for spending your time, for sharing your lives, and for building your dreams with me. Have a fantastic evening. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Everyone.
Happy July 3rd, VI team.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.